John Vlismas and Carmen have just launched their thought-provoking podcast, aptly named The Outsiders.
We would like to read our manifesto of The Outsiders to you, as we think that what we are doing is very important to push the human race forward. When everyone else asked how high, we asked why. When we hear it's my way or the highway, we choose the highway every time. From early on, we didn't fit in. We wanted to be in, but eventually we became comfortable at the edge.
The only middle we believe in is the finger we flash at those who say it can't be done. We found each other out there. We're not the same looking, but we have the same insides. We're outsiders. We're you.
I've known both of them for years, separately. Them coming together was like, okay, you two, how did this happen? So, how did this happen? How did you two get to know each other and discover that you have a common thread?
Carmen just called up and said, can I interview you? And then I got there, and what I found in Melville at the 27 boxes, fucking whatever it was this like mad woman wearing Snapchat glasses. And I was like, what is going on? And then when I started to realize Carmen's like a force of nature. She's just a force of, just barreling forward. So of course I immediately attacked her on air, not physically, but psychologically. And she just came back at me, and I was like, oh, this is the kind of healthy tension that you should seek in life. This is where you find great stuff, at the boundary between these things clashing together. And so we started to talk more and more and realized we had lots in common. And what we have in common is we both found ourselves on the outside. Mm-hmm. And the value of that is we both developed a resilience and a different kind of intelligence, perhaps not in formal intelligence. We're not academics, mm-hmm. but we've got a way of dealing with the world because we've been pushed out. Mm-hmm. And then we started to talk about it, and we realized that almost everyone has that. Mm-hmm. Marketing forces you to be an outsider because it needs to sell you a solution.
Yes.
So everything we do is based essentially on a fear that we're going to be left out.
Yes.
So we thought, well, let's start talking to everyone about this thing. And so far, we've just found the most amazing people.
But now, do you find that you guys come in at different angles? Because, I mean, you are polar opposites. It's amazing to me. You're yin-yang. In your darkness and in your light. How do you find a common ground if you guys are so opposite to finding a solution to the same issue? I mean, it's just...
From my side, I think it's to first find what we have in common, mm-hmm. and then build backwards from there. So there's things that we're going to agree on, understand what that is, and then have a healthy tension. It's not tension, I don't know, you like to say tension. For me, it's more like an honest conversation and respectfully disagreeing. So we workshopped, when we decided we're going to do this, right? We workshopped how we're going to do the show and what needs to happen. And I said to John, listen, there is a few people that I don't like, and I would not like them to be interviewed because of their bad reputation, sexual harassment, and all of those kind of things, and it's really bothering me. And I wouldn't like them on the show, and I don't think we should give them airtime. And he says, that's interesting. Why are you saying that? And I was like, well, because I have a history of sexual abuse, and I don't want, that kind of people. I'm not going to endorse people like that. But he's like, why? And he kept on asking me why and why and why. And in that moment, because he kept on asking me why, I realized one thing. We've become like brother and sister. Mm-hmm. If he has to relapse today, I'm not saying, Simon, no. I'm
the monkey on the edge.
But I mean, should he ever relapse, heaven forbid, would I abandon him? No. And the important thing is turning the mess into a message. And I think that was the departure point. It's like wherever we're going to have on the show, it's not about agreeing or disagreeing. It's about knowing that each one in this room has a different perspective on life. Mm-hmm. And we need to learn to disagree or agree.
Let's do that.
I freaking love what John and Carmen did today. You know why? as someone who I consider myself being an outsider, all of a sudden I felt like I have a community, a sense of belonging, a space of I've arrived and I'm home.
Well, what do we think about what went down today? I think it's exciting news. It's really, really cool that Björn and Carmen have established a platform of their own where they can explore the art of being an outsider, really, right? Or the state of being an outsider.
Yeah, well, I would like to add to that anything that challenges the status quo makes us really think a little harder about how we show up in the world, how we behave, and whether or not we accept others for who they are and their behavior in the world. So I think that's what they're trying to do, is to give us a little bit of a nudge and a prod.
Podcasting is a little bit like a balloon filled with water that you're squishing between your hands, and as you squeeze it, it pops out in all different manifestations. We don't know what podcasting is going to be, but right now it's an exciting space where people are trying stuff, saying stuff, doing stuff, and John and Carmen are just the perfect combination for taking advantage of what is possible in this space, having conversations, getting guests in, going down rabbit holes that people wouldn't normally, and then engaging with people in the real world. It's just a wonderful thing to be involved in.
Well, it went out because it's not in the box, it's out. It's totally different, totally, like, I almost don't have a word for it because this doesn't exist, and I'm excited about how it will be inclusive, even though it says outsiders.
I am so excited for this podcast. It's the safe haven that all of the little freaks were looking for. It's the little flag of hope, the beacon of light that attracts all the bugs and the ones that people don't feel comfortable around. It's the light that you can fly to that's not going to zap the shit out of you. And that's exciting. I love it. I can't wait.
So I'm super excited for John and Carmen for with their launch of their new podcast, Outsiders, because I think we all are outsiders, and it's a conversation about just why we are outsiders and why we believe that we are different than the rest of the world. So look, it's going to be exciting content.
I think it's really interesting in terms of what they're putting together. I think there's a dire need for people to feel a sense of belonging, a sense of community. And I think that ultimately we are all outsiders. Apparently, I'm realizing this more and more by belonging. We are part of one community.
Quite an extraordinary morning in a furniture shop. We spoke at some length about what makes people outsiders, and we've got such a range of people from childhood sexual abuse to just being casually lesbian, although I don't think anybody said lesbian, but I have my theories. It's been a wonderful morning.
I think it's amazing that people are allowed to be themselves, that people are allowed to have their own opinions and not be judged on it. We spend our whole life passing judgment on ourselves, never mind anybody else. And in this little group here, everyone realizes that they can have an opinion and not be judged. So I think it's fabulous.
I am doing this to push the boundaries. I'm doing this because I want to push the human race forward. And I really want everybody to have a sense of belonging, a place where they all can fit in. I've been a misfit my entire life, and there's many of us out there. And all we want is to build this a community of people that can get together and celebrate each other's uniqueness rather than tearing each other down.
And we're doing it because we believe that people who feel like they're on the outside need a place to go. And I believe that there are much more people on the outside than will admit to it. And we have this almost code of shame. We don't want to admit to being on the outside or left behind of the group. But actually, a little bit of outsideness makes us all a bit special. So the idea is to try and find that specialness and then combine it with other people's specialness and end up with a big specialness, a hyper specialness, if you will, a very big specialness around the world.
These two, Carmen and John, will actually include everyone, and it's so important that we understand that we each have our own story, and I'm excited to hear them.
I always think if we can have a multiplicity of voices in any country, but especially our country, we all benefit, and it's good for every single person, a citizen of this country. So I'm really excited to hear what comes out of that podcast.
Yeah, so I think the other thing about podcasting, which we were having a chat earlier about the difference between podcasting and normal broadcast media, is that you have a little more latitude. You can push the edges just a little bit further, and I think that's going to be very exciting and interesting to follow.
100%, yeah.
We're going to leave here with this idea that everyone here is slightly excited about this, because the truth is, all of you know that there's a piece of truth in what we're about to do. And so you resonate with that, because that's how truth works. If you don't understand it, you just feel it. So you're going to leave here. The danger we have is that it's like an ember as you leave here, it's going to die down. And by the time you get back to work through the fucking load-shedded traffic, you might be angry again and forget what you felt here. But we'd like to ask you to keep that ember going and fan it and tell other people. And when you see the thing online, share it so that the flame can grow. And then the freaks can have a place to come and then feel better. And we can refuel ourselves and make a better country. No. We don't need your applause.